massive amount of people. We have limited time, so we'll start with 2 short statements, and then the ministers will answer some questions. Mr. U.Rozental, could you please start?
Yes, thank you. It's a great pleasure for me to have my dear colleague S.V.Lawrov here in The Hague. He talked yesterday, as you know, with Prime Minister Rutte. We discussed today in the morning session extensively a couple of points of mutual interest and concern. But beforehand, let me say that we again said to each other that the Dutch-Russian relations are intense, cordial, warm, and that we are looking forward also to the 2013 celebrations of Dutch-Russian cooperation. Let me add to this a couple of points which we discussed topic-wise. We discussed the economic relations between the 2 countries. We see quite some possibilities to intensify and enlarge the economic relations between the 2 countries, which are already of a voluminous quantity and quality. We discussed there what was quite interesting. We were on common ground with the idea that small and mid-sized businesses could benefit very much from intensifying their activities on both sides. Apart from the economic relations, we discussed shortly the situation on in the domain of energy distribution and provision. We, of course, are well aware of the fact that a couple of months ago the Nord Stream was put into action, which is of great importance both for the Russian Federation and the Netherlands. With regard to the international issues at hand, we had an in-depth discussion about the situation in Syria. Let me make 2 comments on that. The Dutch position is quite clear that, to our mind, the opposition forces, the opponents of the Mr. Assad should try to unite because they are now not in a coherent stance. Secondly, we would really hope that it would be possible to get to a situation where the consultations in the United Nations arena would be reopened. I think that at the moment the UN General Assembly avenue is one, but I don't give up hope that at a certain moment it would be possible, after all, to get again the matter of Syria before the United Nations Security Council. On the part of the Dutch position, let me be very frank and open with you that from the Dutch end, we think that the president of Syria should step down, that all violence from all sides should stop, and that then we should go on the path to transition to a better situation for Syria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank my good friend U.Rozental for hospitality. I had a pleasure and honor to host him in Moscow a little less than 1 year ago when we signed a joint program of action between the 2 countries for the years 2011 through 2013. And part of this program was the festivities of the year 2013, when the Netherlands would hold Dutch year in Russia and the Russians will hold the Russian year in the Netherlands. We took note of quite impressive development in our economic cooperation. The Netherlands are number 3 trading partner of Russia and the 2nd biggest investor in the Russian economy, and the emphasis on promoting links and encouraging links between medium-sized and small businesses of the two countries was very much on our minds. We expect that when later this year, Deputy Prime Minister Maxim Verhagen visits Russia with some business communities, this would be a very opportune occasion to discuss the potential of small and medium business companies' cooperation. We also look forward to more cooperation in energy. We discussed cooperation on legal issues between the Ministries of Justice, between prosecutors general. We discussed exchanges between the ambassadors at large who deal with human rights. We are open to these discussions, and we have some plans to receive our Dutch colleagues in Moscow, and certainly our representatives would be ready to come here. On international issues, true, we discussed Syria, also in the context of broader developments in the huge and highly important region of the Middle East and North Africa. The developments there are underway quite actively, and I think we haven't seen the end of it yet. And we have to take into account the experience and the lessons we received in Libya, in Egypt, in other parts of this region. But of course, Syria is on everybody's mind because people are dying every day. This is terrible. The violence must stop immediately and irrespective of where it comes from. We see eye to eye with our Dutch colleagues here, and we support the original initiative of the Arab League that everyone must stop fighting. We also support the rejection of outside interference, and here we again are on the same wavelength with our Dutch colleagues, and we do believe that it's only political dialogue which can bring a solution to this situation. But the dialogue must be inclusive and Syrian-led. Unfortunately, some of our partners long ago wrote off the government of Syria as interlocutor, and instead of a dialogue, there is an attempt to isolate the Syrian government and not to have any contacts with it. We believe that this is a mistake. It's only the Syrian people themselves who can, in a broad discussion, decide who should leave and when, at what time, at what moment. We cannot impose decisions on the Syrian population. They must agree among themselves. The international community, the international actors must help, but they must all push all Syrian parties in the same direction, in the direction to the negotiating table, like we all did in Yemen. And when painstakingly a deal was reached in Yemen, it was after that that the will and the deal of the Yemenis themselves was endorsed by the Security Council. That was a fair and, I would say, absolutely impeccable approach from the point of view of international law and the competences of the Security Council and the United Nations in general. Lastly, we discussed the future possibilities of some new consultations on Syria in the United Nations. We are all in favor of consultations. Actually, when the last resolution was vetoed by Russia and China, it was our Western colleagues who shut the door on consultations, telling to us that they are not going to listen to our comments anymore, and in fact putting this resolution to a vote by way of ultimatum. And I want to explain very plainly what was wrong with that resolution. We certainly recognize the effort of the co-sponsors when they removed any threat of sanctions. We certainly welcomed the acceptance of our and Chinese proposal to state clearly that nothing in this resolution should be considered as authorizing the use of force. But, and there was, of course, the provision which said that all violence must stop. So from the point of view of principles, The progress was evident, which was bringing us closer. But as soon as we started negotiating the operational paragraphs, telling who should do what, then we encountered a problem. There was a demand to the Syrian government to immediately withdraw all army units from the cities and towns. And we wanted to add one, in my view, very obvious things, that this should be done in conjunction with the same move on the part of the armed groups who are fighting in the cities and towns against the Syrian government. This was rejected categorically, which immediately made it clear that what the co-sponsors actually want is to demand unilateral withdrawal without checking the armed groups who are fighting and also killing people, by the way. So we have to be honest with each other, and if it is about ending violence, everything is possible. We all must act in sync and must lean on all Syrian parties to stop fighting and to sit down and negotiate. If the plan is to use the Security Council and the United Nations to adopt some language which would help legitimize the regime change, then I'm afraid international law does not allow this, and we cannot support such an approach. We also discussed briefly some other developments, discussed the relations between Russia and the European Union. We are supportive of some faster movement towards visa facilitation, further visa facilitation, and eventually visa-free travel. We appreciate the position of the Netherlands in support of further development of cooperation between Russia and the European Union in the field of energy. There are some issues to be discussed, but constructive mood of the Dutch colleagues we certainly welcome. Well, there are many other things on our agenda. We are partners in NATO-Russia Council, and we will continue our discussions on European security matters, including the missile defense situation. We will continue discussing things like Iranian nuclear program. Unfortunately, there are too many problems in the world, and we would not be left, I think, idle for quite some time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Madam.
Madam,
You're not a madam.
Zij houdt de microfoon. Mr. Lavrov, tomorrow the General Assembly will vote, of the United Nations, will vote on a new resolution against Assad. Can you tell us how Russia will vote there? And what do you think of the announcement that President Assad will organize a referendum later this month? Is that a possibility to stop the violence in Syria?
Well, as far as the resolution is concerned, we prefer to be guided not by the fact that there is a resolution against President Assad, but we would be guided by the substance of this resolution. I just presented in detail our analysis of the situation, and if our position is taken into account in this resolution, then we would certainly be considering developing some consensual language. If the logic of the resolution would be one-sided and would be ignoring the fact that people are getting killed by the opposition armed groups as well, then this would be a resolution which would not help. On the referendum, yes, we certainly believe that new constitution which would end one-party rule in Syria is a step forward. We certainly believe that introducing the pluralistic basis for the new political system in Syria is a welcome idea, and we hope that the referendum will take place and the constitution would be adopted, and then the Syrian government planned to hold, I think, elections before the end of May on the basis of new constitution. They're registering political parties, so this is a healthy development. It's coming late, unfortunately, but it's better, as always, better later than never.
2030 will be the year of Russia in the Netherlands and the year of the Netherlands in Russia. So what kind of cooperation is planned, and can you please explain some programs, some details?
Well, there would be many events. The understanding is that the first half of the year 2013 would see more events in the Netherlands, and the second half there would be more activity in Russia. There would be exchange of exhibitions, exchange of cultural visits, performances. I unfortunately don't have the exact list with me, but I'm sure you would be pleased and thrilled to participate in those functions.
Well, as we discussed it already last year, this year 2013, I do know that my dear colleague wants the celebrations to take place also in what is called the regions and the provinces. I then already discussed with my dear colleague that regions and provinces in the Russian Federation are of a somewhat different kind than regions and provinces in this small Dutch country, but nevertheless the point is taken, and we should see to it that it will be for the Dutch, on the Dutch end, an all Netherlands affair. And I have still vivid memory of the wonderful Russian Orientalist painters exhibition last year in Groningen, so far away from the Hague Wassenaar.
I would also add that Russian regions should not be foreign to the Netherlands, because the companies invest in many Russian regions, especially in the European part, but not only there.
My question is for Minister Lavrov on Syria as well. France said today that they will discuss with your government a new Security Council resolution on human corridors. What do you think about that, and on what conditions can you agree with such a resolution?
Well, as I said, it's impossible to answer such questions without having language in your hands. I am meeting with Minister Juppé tomorrow in Vienna, and would be, of course, ready to listen what he has to say on this.
One last question.
Igor Piskunov, RT News Channel. My question is to the Dutch Foreign Minister. Sir, what obstacles do you see are there en route to a visa-free regime between Russia and the EU, and are the Netherlands ready to cancel visas for Russians? Thank you.
I can be quite straightforward on this. I don't see any reason to talk about obstacles and impediments with regard to visa facilitation. I think that we should go rapidly and resolutely into the solving of whatever obstacles there would be, but these obstacles don't come from the Dutch side at all. And I don't think in the bilateral sense that there are any obstacles from the Russian side either.
I already said in my introductory remarks that we appreciate highly the position of the Netherlands on the visa facilitation and eventually visa-free travel. Thank you. Yeah?
One last one then.
Okay.
My question is about Iran announcement to open new nuclear program. What is your reaction on this development?
Well, as long as what was announced is about peaceful uses of nuclear energy, of course this is all under safeguards and under permanent monitoring of the International Atomic Energy Agency. So we are more or less on the safe side as long as the agency keeps monitoring there. Last month there was a visit of the agency Deputy Director General to Iran, during which they discussed further contacts on the issues which caused most suspicions on the part of the international community. Of course, the Security Council resolutions and the resolutions of the governing board of IAEA request Iran to freeze enrichment in order to negotiate a deal which would remove any suspicions, and after that Iran would resume enjoying full rights of non-nuclear members of non-proliferation treaty. So we would certainly prefer that Iran cooperates with these requirements. But again, the important thing is that whatever is being announced and done in the nuclear area is under full control of IAEA. And we believe that it is absolutely necessary to avoid any steps which might undermine the cooperation between IAEA and Iran. And of course, we would like Iranians to answer those questions which the agency has. We encourage strongly continued dialogue on specific suspicions which are available in Vienna. Thank you.
Well, let me add to this. I was yesterday in Vienna, talked to people from the IAEA, the Energy Agency. Let me say that it is of great importance to get at indeed full and open cooperation on the part of the Iranian authorities. They told the IAEA a couple of weeks ago that they had taken a historical decision to fully cooperate with the IAEA. IAEA will be in Iran again in the end of this week, beginning of the next week. We'll come up with a report in March, and we all share the hope that then the IAEA could conclude that Iran has gone for a full and open cooperation with the IAEA and has given access to the IAEA to all nuclear sites in that country. So there, practice what you preach, I would say, to the Iranians. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where we go? This way?